Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Maximus the Fourth. And what I have for you guys today is something that's a little bit, actually a lot more different and obscure. First and foremost, before I start this video, I want to mention to you guys, all of you that have tuned in for all my soda reviews, I thank you so much. In this video, I will not be doing a soda review. I will be doing something completely different. I'm going to be talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov, a retired mixed martial artist. So if you guys happen to see this video and you are used to my soda reviews, please just know that this is not something that I do a lot, and just know that my soda reviews will be coming back for sure, and I'm probably going to be doing one today. So let's get right into this. Khabib Nurmagomedov, a Russian Sambo specialist, took on the sport of mixed martial arts, and he did very well. He had an undefeated record of 29 wins with 0 losses, and he had 8 knockouts and 11 submissions. Khabib Nurmagomedov was a true one of a kind. He was not like any other fighter that I or anyone else has probably ever seen before. This guy could do it all. He was a ridiculously good wrestler. He wasn't the greatest striker. He didn't have like the greatest amount of power, but he had the ability to tag you. He could land punches and score points. A lot of times he might not be able to score damaging blows on his feet, although I know he had fights where he did do that. But for instance, in a fight with Ally Aquinta that he was up against, which I think that was his toughest test out of anyone he ever fought, he wasn't necessarily striking better than Ally Aquinta, but he was landing more shots. They were more of the shots, they weren't really damaging blows, they were just point scorers. So he's very good at hacking into stylistic fights in areas and adapting really fast into spots where he's not the best at, and that's exactly what he did with Ally Aquinta. Khabib Nurmagomedov is somebody that I really miss, and I'm sure a lot of you out there do too. He was so mentally tough, incredibly well conditioned, highly skilled grappler with wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and all of his submissions were phenomenal. He could do it all. The only other guy out there that I legitimately think even comes close to his level for the weight class, although this guy did not fight in the same weight class as Khabib, although he probably could have made the cut, is George Rush St. Pierre. I think that if George Rush St. Pierre and Khabib Nurmagomedov fought, I think that Khabib, I would probably give him a 60% advantage that he would win the fight, only because he's younger than George Rush St. Pierre. But George Rush St. Pierre, he has all of the tools and the technique to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. He would just have to be very cerebral because Khabib is tenacious. George St. Pierre is certainly the greatest athlete that ever stepped in the octagon, without a doubt. The guy was just a freaking animal. He could pound you, he could submit you, he could out-wrestle you. Pretty much everything that Khabib Nurmagomedov could do. I think that in both Khabib Nurmagomedov and George Rush St. Pierre's prime, absolute top-notch prime, it's so hard to say. My heart would probably give George Rush St. Pierre the edge as far as being a better fighter in his prime, But it's, like I said, it's so hard to say because Khabib Nurmagomedov, the things that he did was absolutely freaking ridiculous, especially in the modern day UFC, when the fighters are much more sophisticated and talented and having to be way better. Khabib Nurmagomedov was basically the modern day George St. Pierre. I think that if George Rush St. Pierre did fight in the same time era as Khabib, he probably could have been just as good. Two losses that George Rush St. Pierre suffered. The first one was against Matt Hughes. And the reason why he lost to him is because he put him on too high of a pedestal. He allowed himself to be afraid of him. And because of his mentality, he lost the first fight. His second loss was against Matt Serra, somebody that he put on too low of a pedestal, which was a big mistake because Matt Serra has got a ton of power, and Matt Serra did knock out George Rush St. Pierre in that fight. So other than those two fights that George Rush St. Pierre lost to Matt Hughes and Matt Serra, I honestly think that both of those fights were flukes, because George Rush St. Pierre could have easily gone without losing either one of those fights, because he came back and absolutely just freaking destroyed Matt Hughes in both the second in the rematch and the rubber match, and he came back and wasted Matt Serra. Now let's get back onto Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib Nurmagomedov made some sort of a promise, I think to his mom or dad, that he would retire at a certain point of his life. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he never ever really did have one fight in his career where he did not fight without his dad being in his corner. He was a very big part of his life. And before he fought Justin Gaethje in, I want to say 2000 and I think that was 2020. It might have been just barely before 2021. He lost his dad to the COVID. So it was a huge tragic time for Khabib having to go on without his dad. If you could just imagine what it was like to be in Khabib Nurmagomedov's position, probably entering the biggest fight of his life against Justin Gaethje for his second title defense. He did it without his dad. I mean, he absolutely owned Justin Gaethje. He wore him out. He got him to the point to where he had an adrenaline dump because he was so incredibly stimulated having to go up against Khabib Nurmagomedov. He ended up choking him out in a triangle. And the craziest thing about it is Khabib Nurmagomedov, he decided to slap on a triangle on Justin Gaethje because Justin Gaethje, he said that if he was thrown in an armbar, he wasn't going to tap out. So going into this fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he knew this, and he didn't want to break Justin Gaethje's arm. He knew that he could have gotten him in an armbar probably very easily. But because he knew that Justin wasn't going to tap if he did that, he decided to throw on a triangle choke. Who does that? Seriously, who in the world will just try to choose a way to win a fight because they don't want to hurt their opponents? Khabib Nurmagomedov, he wasn't just a great fighter, but he was also very merciful. It sounds weird because he would pound people like crazy in his fights because he had to do what he had to do to win the fight. But if he knew that he could beat someone in a way without hurting them, he would. And that's exactly what he did with Justin Gaethje. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he currently is coaching his cousin. And he's very good. Not even close to what Khabib is. But this guy, he's got the skill and the knowledge to be basically as good as Khabib Nurmagomedov, but Khabib is just simply a more gifted athlete. I'm here to tell you guys right now that I miss watching Khabib Nurmagomedov fight so much. And I really, really hope that he makes his return one of these days, because he was something else to watch. There really was no one else out there that was like him, and it's just sad that he retired as soon as he did, but at the same time, I understand why he did it. It's because his dad wasn't around anymore, and it made it that much harder for him. It was incredible that he could psychologically get through the fight with Justin Gaethje without his dad, and he did. So, all in all, honestly, good for him that he did retire when he did. But I will always respect Khabib Nurmagomedov as a retired mixed martial artist. But I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I miss him a lot. And I really hope that he returns to the sport one day. And maybe we could start a movement to bring Khabib Nurmagomedov back. Maybe if you guys enjoy this video, you could share it. Share it with any big channels on YouTube that you know of that like mixed martial arts and are a big fan of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Maybe with hope, with sharing this video worldwide as much as we possibly can, it could possibly get Khabib's attention and maybe light that fire back up in his heart that he once had for the sport and come back at least one more time. Thank you guys for tuning into this video. I really hope it does well. That's about as good of a passionate talk as I could come up with Khabib. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. And if you know of anyone that you think might enjoy it, please share it. And for more upcoming future content, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for notifications of when my next videos are going to come out. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless every last one of you, and have yourselves a wonderful day.